back to Once Upon a Van Life.
What's up?
This episode, we're going to tell you about our last few adventures down in the States, getting across the border back into Canada, and some more adventures from BC, so stay tuned.
All right, so on our way back up to Canada, we wanted to have one more adventure in United States of America. So Sam looked up a place that maybe we could do on the way back, and she found this town called Leavensworth, which is like a Bavarian town. It was right in the middle of the mountains. It was beautiful. The drive there was crazy. It was kind of reminded me of BC, but kind of driving around these lakes and big mountains, but it drops you right into this little town called Leavensworth, which is Sam will tell you about.
It was so cool. It was like being in a different country. Every single building in Leavensworth, from the KOA that we stayed at to the hospital to the gas station, had like gingerbread cutout wood like all the way around it.
It felt like Oktoberfest.
Yeah, everything was on theme. Like every single building, even the hospital looked like some sort of like Swiss chalet. It was the craziest looking town we've ever been in.
Not the chicken place.
No, not the chicken place. But yeah, it was all on theme, and there was this really cool downtown core that had like coffee shops and restaurants, but also like entertainment. I don't even know what they're called, but there was this lady like playing this giant 8-foot horn. I think of is like the Ricola commercials, right? Like that's kind of what it was.
We went to a brewery called Icicle Brewery, which he was allowed in while we had a beer, so that's always cool.
And a nice hummus platter, Josh and my go-to. And even the KOA, it had been renovated recently, and it was on a beautiful river that ran through it, and it had like a little area where you could go down and actually swim at the river. We didn't. It wasn't really warm enough. But again, even the KOA was on theme, like the colors and everything that they had chosen. It really made you feel like it was an immersive experience. And like we said, you got to go through this beautiful drive through the Washington Mountains to get there. So although it was a few hours out of the way, I think it was definitely a really cool stop, eh?
Yeah, it was awesome because the town had like a river that went through it as well. So we took a stroll down to the river, and there's like a trail there. They had some parks and stuff, and it's just cool because you're like everywhere you looked, you're right in the middle of mountains. So it's kind of had like a Banff feeling a little bit, but definitely
really
not
secluded.
Busy though. Definitely not busy just because of out of season. It was only April.
April.
But, yeah.
It was awesome. I'd highly recommend it for a trip, especially for like couples. There was a bunch of fancy resorts and restaurants and stuff. It was really, really nice.
So we're in Leavenworth, which is in the mountains in Washington State. In this little town, it's a Bavarian town. It feels like we're in Germany.
Very cool.
It smells like sausage and beer. All the buildings look
the real mountains.
Look like we're in Germany, and then there's some mountains in the background. Very cool.
So after that, we went back across the border, and it was relatively uneventful this time. Crossed over no problem. Asked how long we'd been there. We declared our one bottle of wine, and on we went. And from there, we decided to go up to Squamish and Whistler, and we camped at Kootenay Camping Ground, which was pretty good. Yeah. It was weird. There was like no staff anywhere for the whole 5 days.
It was like kind of right on the ocean, essentially, like, the mountains all surround, but yeah, it was like pretty much the ocean. That
nice ocean view again, for sure. And yeah, it was a great little campground. Some really cool little sites kind of tucked all over the place. And it was right across the road from Shannon Falls, which is really cool.
It's giant falls, like huge.
Which you could also see from the campground.
We probably could have walked, but we were like going into Squamish for the day, so we drove there. But super nice. Like you kind of just like walk up a bunch of these stairs, a couple of views from these falls that breathtaking. Like basically the top of it is coming down from top of a mountain, essentially, right? So,
and the gondola's right there too.
You could take a gondola up to the top. That's correct.
Hendrix was really creeped out by the gondolas. It was funny. I think he thought they were like animals climbing up and down the side of the mountain. But Shannon Falls, absolutely beautiful. And then we went into downtown Squamish, which it was a bit of an overcast week. It was kind of rainy on and off, but it's
BC, so it rains a lot there.
And springtime. But we found some thrift shops, and we found some coffee shops, and a nice little downtown, eh, hun?
Yeah, and there was just when you're coming into Squamish, there's a giant flat kind of mountain where like people just like rock climb. We didn't see anybody rock climbing at that time.
Yeah.
But they had lots of signs, and you could basically just go free climb there, which is pretty cool. I wish we kind of would have saw somebody, but no, Squamish definitely a nice place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And from there, we just went up the highway a little further and we went and visited Whistler, which was really awesome. A lot of the Olympic stuff is there still from when Whistler the city hosted the Olympics, which was, what year was that, babe?
2012 or
12?
2010. 2010. Crosby scored the goal, right?
Yeah. So there's still like the big Olympic circles that you can go and stand by, and right by downtown, lots of like kind of like monuments and plaques and stuff to kind of attribute to what happened there.
Yeah, and it kind of reminded me of Banff again. It was just a little bit bigger, but a little town that's kind of like basically the town looks like a ski resort.
Yeah.
And it's just mountains all around it. It's a beautiful. Once again, it rained, so we didn't really get to explore too much.
We had a beer on a patio, typical us, and went for some walks, which was nice. And we saw a couple more bear, actually. Yeah. That was cool. When we were leaving Squamish to go up to Whistler, a little black, I wouldn't call him a cub, but like a juvenile black bear actually went to almost run in front of us right on the road, and he stopped, thank goodness. And then when we were on our way to Lost Lake in Whistler to go for a walk, which is a great trail if you're in Whistler, it takes you all the way around the lake. It's only about an hour, but it does connect to a whole bunch of other trails if you're interested in going farther than that. We saw a big black bear.
Yeah, it's like a golf course, like the 17th and 18th holes divided by the road that takes you to the lake. And we're driving, and we just look on the green, and there's a bear. Just
big black bear.
I can't even imagine
just
playing golf
and across.
or like on a Saturday in the middle of summer, how many the days get backed up just because you have to wait for them to clear, right? But yeah, very cool little town, and definitely recommend Squamish and Whistler.
Yeah.
All right, so we started making our way back through the mountains, going east in the Kootenay Mountains, and we ended up just outside of Nelson, a little town that's tucked once again in the mountains on a river, and we ended up camping at Kootenay Creek Provincial Park, which was amazing. Awesome. It was so beautiful. Awesome. Like we were there for about 5 days, right?
Yeah, 5 days.
Yep.
It was beautiful. Not only are you on the river, which actually when you're in the campground looks more like a lake. The river is so wide. The views were breathtaking. It was mountains and river and sandy beaches. The sunsets were unbelievable.
So cool.
And the park itself had really nice trails. It had a nature center, and it had like boardwalks and bridges. Like you could walk probably for 3 or 4 hours. Like if you just went all the way like around this campground, it was really, really cool.
And once again, it's BC, so it rained. But it's funny though, because every day we look at the weather and it would say rain and snow, but every day it only rained because this is like the spring.
Yeah.
But what it meant by snow was because in the mountains, and I think we have some pictures of this, it snowed on top of the mountains, like even the ones that were like directly beside us, the tops, but then the bottoms wouldn't be snow. And you could see, like Sam said, it was tucked in the mountains, and I'll put a picture of it. If you look down the river, it's just like mountain range after mountain range after mountain range. It's just picturesque. So beautiful.
Beautiful drive into there too. It was a very remote drive, but it was really, really lovely.
And we went on a walk on this trail called Canyon Trail. How original.
Canyon Lookout.
It was through a canyon, and takes you on a nice little trail, and classic BC kind of hiking trail, and it brings you up and just this giant kind of cavernous
gorge
that it's hard to explain, but it kind of the water basically goes out into the river, so that was beautiful waterfall. It
was so lovely, just so lovely.
And then of course we went to Nelson, which is a cool town that's like it's pretty small, but it has your grocery stores and your Walmart or whatever, but it's once again tucked in the mountains, and has like its one row with the coffee shops and thrift stores and stuff like that. It was very, very cool little town.
Restaurant. We went to this tiny little hole-in-the-wall diner and had veggie burgers, and it was a good time. Definitely. Nelson and the provincial park are really, really nice.
So spent a few days here. We're at Kootenay Creek Provincial Park in BC, near Nelson, and the views are amazing. There's like a beach, but then there's mountains with snow. Very peaceful. And of course it's raining. Sam and Hendrix.
So one of our last stops before heading back into Alberta was we met my parents in Cranbrook, which was really awesome. It's a very small little town.
Classic, right?
Classic.
In the mountains, right in the mountains.
In Kimberley, just outside of Cranbrook. But we stayed at this beautiful cabin. It had a hot tub with like a view of the mountains. Josh has recently figured out he likes hot tubs, so that was really, really awesome. And we did the go for lunch, go for dinner. We actually went and walked a little waterfall, which we have a few photos of, but just a really nice visit with my parents. And that kind of took us all the way back to the mountain range, which butts up against Banff and Jasper and all of that in Alberta. So it was kind of the end of our BC adventures there. So I guess you'll have to wait till next time to see what's coming next.
All right, so next up we have a story from the road. And it starts off, we're just driving down a country road, you know. We often avoid highways off when we're driving around just because we're seeing the country, so we might as well explore, right?
Take the windy road.
That's right. We're going down this country road, and all of a sudden Sam just points up to me where there's like a railway crossing. She says, "Is that somebody lying on the ground?" And I'm looking, and
lo and behold, there's a lady lying on the ground. She had come up to the train tracks on her bike and basically bailed from what we could see, like gone over the handlebars, and she was laying on the ground on the train tracks.
Her face was like her lips was all bloody.
I think she bit her lip, like, to be honest. Like, I couldn't really tell. And she was also probably 60, 65. Like, she wasn't, I mean this in the nicest way to everyone watching, but she wasn't the youngest pup.
She couldn't get up. Like, she wasn't moving. And I think
she was talking.
She was wearing a helmet.
Yeah.
But I think she definitely had a concussion. But
and she's all by herself at first. Like, when we first pull up, we don't realize. And then I hear her say something about her husband. And I looked down the road and I could see a guy coming back towards us on a bike. I think what happened was he had gotten quite a click ahead of her and he didn't even notice she'd fallen behind until
she hit the railway and took
and
a
it was
bail.
those ones that had like the big wooden railway ties. So he had eventually noticed she wasn't behind him and turned around and came back. But by that point, Josh and I had pulled over and another couple had pulled over and they were calling an ambulance for her because we didn't want to move her, especially because she was talking, but she couldn't tell us what happened and seemed like a little bit disoriented. And by that point, a third vehicle had pulled up and it was actually a couple of hydro workers in a hydro truck. So they got out and put their safety vests on and they started directing traffic.
And they were like giving her paper towels and stuff and trying to kind of, take hold of the situation. And at that point, Sam and I were like, okay, well, if there's an ambulance coming, we should probably get out of here
because the van's really
huge,
big and we're literally parked in the middle of traffic at this point. Like, and I say traffic, it's a country road, but even by this point, like 4 or 5 cars had backed up. So it's like a pretty regularly driven country road. So we thought we'd get out of there. The other couple was going to stay with her. Now her husband's back too till the ambulance got there. But just not something you expect. You're just driving down a country road and there's just a person laying in the middle of the road, right? Yep. So I guess that's another story from the road. Well, thanks everyone for coming to watch again. That was another episode of Once Upon a Van Life. Next time we're heading back into Alberta and having some summer Alberta adventures, and you'll have to stay tuned for that. So make sure you like, subscribe, click the little bell so you get the notifications, and thanks again.
Thanks for watching.
See you next time.